Welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week, chooses the horror movie, and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 2003's Underworld, which was directed by Len Wiseman. I'm your co-host Alec, and today filling in for Eric is longtime guest of the show, one of my best buddies. You all know him, you love him, Matt Banever.
What is up, everyone? Happy to be here.
Welcome back, dude. So, this is your first time seeing Underworld, right?
Yep, first time seeing any of the Underworlds.
Okay. This is also my first time seeing any of the Underworld movies. So if you're a huge Underworld fan, just a heads up, this might not be the podcast for you. We don't know almost anything about these movies. My first impression's not great. So I just want to let you know, if you love these movies, you might not like Wheel of Horror after this episode. So, just a fair warning. You know, I'm curious, because I showed you the wheel and you chose this one. So was there a reason why you wanted to do these?
Yeah, because I'd never seen them and because they made like 7 of them. I was like, all right, there's got to be something to this. And I planned on looking into it and everything. And I didn't like this movie so much that I basically stopped it and just didn't care anymore. Like, I don't know if it's based on a book, a video game, or like anything. I'm just like, what is this world that they threw us into like balls first?
Oh, dude, I feel the exact same way. I was like, okay, I remember when these movies were coming out, and I remember them like, oh, they're kind of like Resident Evil, like not the content, but just like, you know, female protagonists. It seems like there's a bunch of them. They're horror, like, so they just kind of meshed together for me.
Yeah, it definitely was like, felt like the pitch meeting was like, think Matrix meets Werewolves. And it was very Matrixy, especially, you know, I always remember seeing the trailer for this movie when she like shoots the circle around herself and like falls to the floor. Like when that scene came up, I was like, oh yeah, this. But yeah, this movie was just not, it just was like not a fun ride. It's like chaos. It starts out, the stakes are so high in the first like 10 minutes and they only get higher. And yet you have no idea why.
Yeah, dude. It's like, I watched this movie a couple days ago and like nothing stuck. Like, yeah. I remember I remember her like having like a sniper rifle on the roof or whatever. And then like a werewolf gets shot in public, right? And then that like sparks this whole like, oh, the werewolves and the vampires are at it again, you know? So like this was like the reigniting of their battle. Is that kind of what was going on? That's how it starts, right?
Something. Yeah. She's giving like a whole speech about how the lichens and the vampires have been at each other. And I was like, the fuck is a lichen? So I was like, you're just assuming everybody knows this like mythological like lore. I was like, they've got to explain what a lichen is. And then, yeah, she's talking to that guy and she's like, a lichen, a werewolf. I was like, okay, well, I feel attacked. Like, relax.
I mean, I guess it's abbreviated from lycanthrope. That's kind of what I took from it.
Yeah, I had no idea what that was. I mean, like, what blew my mind is how insanely epic they set the stage right at the beginning. And a lot of movies do that, you know, like Lord of the Rings, there's a huge battle, but then it like dials it back and is like, how do we get here? Why is this so big? This did not. This set the stage and then just ran full tilt. And I was like, what is the plot here? Are we supposed to care about this kid, about the lichens, about the Dracula? What is the girl's role? Is she just a random vampire? What is her hierarchy stance? I still don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they really flesh this out in the sequels because, like, they did set a stage for a lot of stuff. We get the Bill Nighy or Nighy or whatever, his vampire, the old ass vampire, him coming back. That's like a huge plot thing. But then you're right. There's the war going on between the vampires and the werewolves. There's also Michael Sheen's character who's like. Yeah. Trying to figure out if we can do like a hybrid thing. There is so much going on. Yeah, and who the hell is Scott Speedman? Who the fuck is he?
Right, yeah. like the light bullets, and I'm like, okay, so how do they have access to all this technology? Like, it's just like there's like bloodlines. Like, what is the whole family dynamic? Like, is it a monarchy? Is it not? Is it like what is going on? But just, some just technical stuff. The color grading was all over the place.
Yes.
It was like, wait, is it blue? Are we doing the blue thing? Are we not? We're back and forth. I think every single scene of this movie was at night. There was no extras ever. I think every extra they had was on that train scene in the beginning. But every time they're driving around, there's nobody on the streets. There's nobody anywhere. Like, nobody that these people are dressed this way, walking around with like automatic weapons, like at night.
Just to speak on the technical thing for a second too, I don't know if this was just my TV. I don't think it is, because most movies aren't like this. I was having to adjust the volume constantly. Like, when they're talking, it's like they're whispering, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the loudest music, and then a gun will go off, an explosion, and then they'll start whispering again. I was like getting so, and also I watched it on Netflix. I don't know if you watched it on Netflix. The subtitles were so fucked up.
Yeah, even the voice. Like, there were certain times I was thinking, okay, maybe when they shot it, everybody's speech was fucked up because of like the fangs, and so they looped it without the fangs. But they still had like the lisp, but it was off by like a millisecond for so many people. I was like, this is just rookie editing and like rookie looping. It was just like basic like film etiquette, like stuff a student would know is like going wrong here.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just because it was on Netflix, or if this is actually the actual source production. This is what it was like. But let's keep shitting on it a little bit more, and then we'll go into the positives a little bit. But dude, the werewolves looked like shit. The CGI werewolves looked horrible. Like, almost, I will say, no, they fucking sucked. They fucking sucked. Like, I'm sorry. I know there's so many people that love these movies, and I hate how much I hate it.
Yeah, I even wrote a note down. I was like, you could tell that they had a pretty strict special effects budget, and they probably blew through that budget, because there were a lot of scenes where it just felt so obvious that they were like, we'll just, cut the cameras back and forth. And one was like when Michael Sheen's on top of the car, he's like stabbing into it. Ugh. And it like the camera just keeps going back and forth, like between the outside of the car and the inside of the car. And I was like, this is just, this is film school like 101. Like, how do you make special effects look real? And it was like, oh, so they probably did that to save up for the werewolves, which didn't even look good at all. They looked like the same one repeated, and they just like tilted it in different ways.
Oh God. Really quick, back to that scene where Michael Sheen jumps on the car. Like, he wasn't even trying to hit them. He stabbed in the middle where there's nobody sitting. So it's like,
yeah, do you even know how a car works? Like, the people are on the edges.
And then why did he give up, dude? He ran up to the car, got on top of the car, then fell off. I was like, well, I guess I can't do that again. Why not? You ran up to it the first time. Just keep doing it. You're like the Terminator. I was like, this movie. Also, I couldn't fucking figure out who anybody was, dude. Every person looks exactly the same. It's just white dudes with receding hairlines that are just like long and brunette. I just was like, I don't know who anybody is.
Because they, and it didn't help that they didn't give any like hierarchy. Like, they really snuck it in there that she was like betrothed to that other guy. I was like, wait, what? Did I catch that? Is that another plot? Is that another thing that we should care about? Is that important? Who's this blonde, jealous girl who's just around all the time? Like, what is anybody's role? Like, is there a president of this undead society? Like, what? How am I supposed to invest in anybody if I don't know what their roles are? And then you're taking people from the train and bringing other vampires in.
Dude, it was just all over the place. So maybe, I want to say like positively, maybe the sequels are kind of like, okay, let's really focus on this aspect of what we introduced in the first movie, and then whatever. I don't know though. I don't know if they do.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't intend to find out. But I think that I'm hoping what they do is they like kind of John Wick it and just unpack more and more every movie. But I really don't No. And yeah, I don't know. It was really just like, I have no idea what I should have gotten out of that movie other than this thing is happening.
Yeah. Yep. One positive thing I did like about it is I thought the idea of if there is like this vampire coven or whatever, they almost like trade off the leader. It's like, okay, you're gonna hibernate through like the 20th century, and then you'll come back and take over, and then like if shit goes really bad, we'll resurrect you if we need to by like dropping blood into your mouth. Like, I like that idea, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely had, and I think a lot of movies around that time, a lot, especially sci-fi movies, did that where they had it felt like the technology had caught up to when they could make these movies and make them look good, but the plot didn't get any better. And a great example is Alien versus Predator. All those movies, the plot is so good, the execution is so bad, and this is the
Yeah.
same thing. I was like, you've got stuff here, it's just chaos because you're so focused on trying to make it look cool, and it doesn't.
Well, it's a product of the Matrix, kind of, where it's like the Matrix blew the roof off. I mean, 1999, dude. In general, I mean, you've got like Star Wars, Phantom Menace, the Matrix. So like the CGI is like at its peak for those budget movies. This budget,
Yeah.
though, 22 million is still a lot of money, but you're not going to reach Star Wars kind of quality or whatever.
All right.
But I think that you're exactly right. This early 2000s films, all of them were just a symptom of if it looks good, we can sacrifice acting and plot for
Yeah.
how, because at the time, we'd never seen anything like that, so we're cool. But now looking back in retrospect, we're like, the CGI looks like shit and the plot shit. So it's like, it's really hard to overlook it at this point. God, I'm sure so many people are like, I fucking hate these guys.
Yeah, I know. I just yeah, that's really,
These are so popular.
yeah. I don't get how they made so many. That's what blows my mind. I'm like, I can see that. Yeah, we're talking about how there is a huge plot in here somewhere, but my God, I mean, you cut Bill Nye's head in half. Like how much more can be happening with all these other lords and whatever. But one thing that I thought was hilarious was when they're talking about this pure bloodline, how they wanted to make that hybrid vampire and lichen, and they're like, yeah, we need a descendant. And so we found this Covis family, and they had that whole board of like Covis. The guy's last name is Covis, and they're like Xing them all out. I'm like, wouldn't like forensic, like the police never caught on that all these Covis people are going missing across the world? Like everybody with this last name is like dead and missing, and no one has like thought about this at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a very valid point. Yeah, well, and that's a Scott Speedman character, right? That was him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely him. He was pretty bland. I mean, one thing I did like about his acting is that he's basically getting the shit kicked out of him inside and outside the entire film. Like he is getting bitten, stabbed, thrown off roofs, jumping out of roofs, and then when he's not doing that, he's like transforming and having his rib cage explode from the inside out. And the entire time, he's just like kind of acting it out, like they're like, dude, you're just gonna need to grunt and scream for the next 60 days as we make this film.
Well, do you remember the scene where he's in the cop car and he's freaking out or whatever, and then he just blasts the radio or whatever? Do you remember that part?
That music was so loud.
But why did they do that? He was like,
Right.
"Hey, I need help" or whatever, and they're just like, and I was just like, yeah, his character definitely got the shaft in this movie, but I still don't. That was really confusing to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely think that it would be cool. Like I don't know much about the Twilight movies or anything like that, but I know that it's a reoccurring theme with vampires and basically things of the undead where that they've been alive for so long that they've accumulated a lot of wealth and everything. And I wish that they had talked about that a little bit more, like how integrated vampires and lichens are in society. Like they're cops, they're doing all this stuff, they're infiltrating all types of security. I'm like, go into that a little bit more. Like that's pretty interesting how these people have been around for thousands of years and they're just a part of society.
Do you think this movie would have benefited from having almost like a Lord of the Rings intro where there's like a monologue of them just explaining how everything went down? Like, do you think that would have helped it?
Yeah, because what she did in the beginning was just tell us kind of what's going on, like now. The only plot that she gave us from the back end is this thing's been going on forever. So that doesn't really change whether she tells us that is the present situation or the past. But yeah, if she had kind of said in the beginning, we don't know why it's going on, then the whole movie you're thinking, oh, but they brought that in, an hour and a half in. They're like, we don't really know our own history. It's like that would have made this probably a more interesting film from the beginning, because there's no reason for you to ever think about one side versus the other the entire film. So you've already invested an hour plus, and you're like, oh, I guess, now that you say that, the vampires are kind of dicks.
Also, speaking of Twilight, it that also I don't know much about it, but I remember like my girlfriend in high school loved them, so I knew a little bit. They get into vampires versus werewolves, like that's a whole thing in those movies too. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like it is out there in lore, but do you know if this is based on like what this is based on?
no, dude, when I saw who wrote it, it's a Danny McBride, and I was like, "What?" And I looked into it's a
What?
different Danny McBride,
Okay.
but I was like, "He wrote this?" No, but I don't think it's based on anything, dude. You'd think it would be like a graphic novel from the '80s that they butchered,
Right.
but no, it's. I think it's just a movie, dude.
Wow. That's kind of, I mean, all right. That knocks it up one peg for me. And that puts it at one peg.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I definitely think that the biggest takeaway is that they had a good concept. They just didn't really know how to execute it all. They bit off way more than they could chew,
Mm.
which was kind of painful. Like I would have loved to hear more about the technology, like the light bullets. Like that was so sick. They kind of, in the beginning they're like, oh my god, the Lycans have harnessed the sun and put them in bullets. I'm like, how the fuck? like,
Right.
like these people are literally in an abandoned warehouse. Like what technology do they have access to that allows them to do that?
I did love the line where they're talking about the werewolves. There's like, yeah, we take the bullets out because they'll die too quick from the silver. It's like, what do you do with the bullets afterwards? Like, we put them back in. It's like,
Yeah, that was pretty
yeah, but
bad.
dude, yeah, seriously, they harnessed the power of the sun and put it into a bullet. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's figure that out. Like, that's so cool.
Right. And then like an hour later, the chief weapons maker is just like, yes, I did what they did, but with lead, and I just put lead in bullets. Like, you never thought to do that before, like,
Yeah.
like you had to see the power of the sun in a bullet to be like, you know what, maybe we can make our bullets a little bit better instead of using the same things that like pilgrims have been using.
Yeah.
There's lead bullets.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, it almost feels like they suffered from the same thing that Lost did a little bit, like the TV show, where they threw up so many ideas and they just kind of wanted to see like, okay, from here, where can we go? But like they didn't think about anything else besides throwing the ideas in the air.
You know what? I also have come to appreciate more is that films need a variety of tones. And maybe an hour and a half into this movie, I was like, I don't think I've heard a single joke. Like,
Mm.
not one person has made light of any situation. It's just everybody's in these black trench coats at night, shooting and killing each other. That needs to be broken up somehow, because again, you just feel like you're getting pulled along this journey and not knowing anything at all. If somebody made a
Oh.
joke about how absurd this is, or I don't know, something about like putting a dog down, like, that's how they're going to kill werewolves or something, it'd be like, oh, okay, and Martin Sheen jokes a little bit when he's got that kid on like the slab, and he's the kid's seeing all the memories and everything, and he's kind of like making light of the situation. I was like, all right, see, yeah, like that kind of sociopathic indifference to the gravity of the situation, like that really is a nice tonal shift in these movies. I think that this definitely missed a comedic relief character.
Dude, I didn't think about it until right now. You're right. I was like thinking, was there one character who was a comedic relief? And there wasn't. You're 100%
Yeah.
right. It is odd.
Yeah, even the weapons maker could have made some jokes. I mean, the guy's making all types of weapons. He had so many opportunities about like shooting those weird statues that they used as target practice. It's like, there were so many parts like that where I'm just like, see, just put a little light joke in here, and it just brings so much humanity and makes the character so much more relatable, because not one of those characters I felt like I could root for on a human level. I like it. It all just looked like a very unbelievable, unrelatable story that I was just bearing witness to.
And then Michael Corvin character, the Scott Speedman, he's supposed to be like the fish out of water, the audience for us. Like but to get exposition, and we don't really get that much. We can't really relate with anybody. Like Celine's cool. We're like, oh, I like her. She's cool. But Scott, you're like, he's relatable to us because he doesn't know what's going on at all. But still, I didn't relate to him at all. Maybe that's me, but.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because, right from the get go, he's getting bit by werewolves and all this. You'd think he'd freak out a little bit more. He's kind of more mad that it's all happening. He's not really shocked that it's happening. He's more just like, this is annoying that I'm getting chased down by immortal creatures, rather than just being like, what the fuck is going on? Like that. If he had just screamed that once, it would have been like, yeah, this is crazy. I totally. Same, man. That I think was a huge miss for this movie, and I think it would have really helped digest it, and I don't know, just made it a better movie. It's just that, like, one comedic relief. Even like The Matrix had that with like Wrench and these people they come in every 25 minutes and make a light joke or something like that, and it's like, all right, cool.
Who's the bad guy? What's his name? Cypher, right?
Yeah.
In The Matrix. Dude, he has that one line that always kills me. He's like, I want to be somebody important, like an actor. I'm just like, that makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, and because you're watching this totally new, insane world, like you need those grapple hooks to really stay on this ride. And this movie just totally left you in the dust in the beginning, and you're just trying to take it all in. Like, I literally took notes about the different plot points. I was like, all right, plots, there's light bullets, that's got to be important. Bloodlines, so we got to focus on who's married to who. Someone died and left another person in charge. Like, all these things, I'm just like, what is going on? Who is in charge, and how are they in charge? I think my biggest bother with the movie was that I don't know what Selena's role is. Like, they made it seem like, my perception of it was that she is just a vampire. And then I thought, oh, okay, maybe she's Bill Nye's daughter. And he's like, well, you're not. And then you find out more about her backstory, how she's just some random person they found in the woods and didn't kill her. So it's like, well, why, what made you? Why are you this way? What, and I think that, we've talked about that in the last podcast, or I don't know, a couple podcasts ago, how movies now are so focused on the character. You've got these movies coming out like The Joker and The Whale, that the entire movie is basically one person. Whereas even 10, 15 years ago and before, it was much more about the story. The characters were more like tent poles keeping up the story. Whereas now the character is the story. And I think this is definitely a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I mean, Celine, I'm reading her character. She's called a death dealer, and she's a vampire assassin. So, like, I mean, here's the thing. Her character's cool. Like, I really like who she is, and I can see why Kate Beckinsale would come back, and, like, people would enjoy it. Obviously, she's gorgeous, but she's good in this. Like, she's badass, and I believed it, like, sort of thing. It wasn't shoved down our throats. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Let me ask you this, because I'm reading here, too. It says that this was inspired by Romeo and Juliet. Did you get that at all from this?
What? No.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. There's no love. It's not like the vampire and the werewolf are like, there's one that loves the other. That would probably be more interesting, actually. It's like, oh, they fall in love, but like the clans hate each other. Like, that probably would have been better. I don't know.
Yeah, like there's that one part where Bill Nye says, you're infatuated with him or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, now we're going to get a love story, but there is no love story. She just doesn't want him to die. More of like, I don't know, a human level. It didn't feel like Little Mermaid, like you're a mermaid, he's a human, all mad. It didn't feel like the stakes were that high of, you can't fraternize with a human because all of these things. It was just no, don't.
Yeah, their love was so fake. It felt so forced.
Yeah, it didn't even feel like love. It felt like more baseline curiosity. Like I've never been around a human this long.
Yeah, proximity infatuation.
Right. It didn't feel like, it was arbitrary that it was him, you know. It could have been any human.
Yeah. Uh, okay, really quick, just before we kind of wrap up here, I want to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes drama. Do you know about any of
Ooh,
this?
don't.
Okay, so before they filmed this movie, Michael Sheen and Kate Beckinsale were together for like, I don't know, almost 10 years. They were like dating for like 8 years or whatever.
Wow.
They filmed this movie together. Guess who Kate Beckinsale leaves Michael Sheen for?
Bill Nye.
I wish. The director, Len Wiseman.
No way.
So then this director goes on to, continue to direct a lot of these movies. He directed, I think, all of them, right? One, two. No, he only directed the first two. Okay, and then he produced the rest of them. Okay, so I don't know, man. I always find stuff like that interesting, where it's just like you imagine like you're dating somebody for years, that you guys both book the same project, you get to work together, and then she's like, "I'm leaving you for this guy, actually."
Yeah. And not just this guy, the guy who's going to be telling you what to do for the next, couple years of your life.
Oh God, yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that was pretty interesting. So they were married, and they got divorced pretty
Wow.
recently. Yeah, they were married from 2004 until 2019. Damn. So now she's
Right.
out in the market dating Pete Davidson. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't we all be so lucky? Yeah, no, that really is insane. It definitely felt like the cast didn't have much chemistry. Like I didn't feel any kind of connection between them at all. So yeah, who knows? Maybe everybody was forced to watch her like bang him in that vampire house.
I just think they were kind of going for that like Matrix thing, where it's like we're too cool for emotions, but like I don't know, it didn't land as cool in this one because I feel like Keanu Reeves like genuinely doesn't really have emotions, so it like works kind of for him.
Yeah, exactly. I just think at least one thing needed to be explained, and not one thing that they ever did was explained. You saw to it at the end, okay, this abomination now exists. So the one thing that they didn't want to happen happened, and everything else that they talked about, you got no explanation. So you're like, well, what, what, what was the point of any of this? I don't know any more about the family. I don't know anything about the hierarchy. I don't know anything about why they're in this like compound, why they can't leave. Do they pay the electricity bill? Like what's going on? That there's no lights on in that place. It's like a frat house. But again, nobody cares. She's driving around in a Maserati. Like, how do these people exist in a modern world?
Yeah, it was just like they're just gonna be cool. There's cool stuff everywhere, no explanation. Yeah, when they walk in the house, yeah, it looks like a casino. Like everyone's like smoking and drinking and casually sitting around. You're like, who are you? Who the fuck are you guys?
You got some serious eyed wide shut vibes.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, they all got to sit around and watch each other, fuck each other, and somebody's wearing like a goat mask.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I feel bad for shitting on this so much. I'm sure a lot of people love these movies, but
I don't think we've ever shit on a movie this bad.
I'll say this: if you like a vampire movie from 2003, go watch Blade Trinity. I think that was 2003. I like that one
Yeah,
a lot more. I don't know.
I think that this was just straight up, Hollywood being like, it's working, make more, and this was the sour point.
Yeah. Ugh. All right. So you're not gonna continue with the Underworld franchise then?
No, and what is a bummer? I did want to before this. I was like, I remember seeing images of like Bill Nye. I have a feeling like he gets resurrected or something, like somewhere on some commercial. I feel like I saw him. He almost looks like Dracula, like Gary Oldman's Dracula,
Mm.
But I don't know, maybe not. But now I really don't care. I'm not invested.
I hope that people on Twitter are like, no. Okay. Just watch the third one and it'll make sense. Like, I hope somebody does that. But
yeah, exactly. Like, somebody give us a rope. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll try it again. But it was also a little too long.
Yeah, 2 hours of like nothing being fulfilled. Yeah.
This would have been a bomb ass hour and a half, hour 40 minutes, like a Van Helsing, just shoot 'em up style, like in and out, badass plot, rock and roll movie. But
oh my god, Kate Beckinsale's in Van Helsing too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what was she doing around this time? She's like, I just like tight clothes and fucking vampires. Like, god damn.
Oh, you know it.
All right, well, you got any last minute thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the more we do these older episodes, the more I'm just like, wow, it's really how important character development is. And this movie kind of lacked it. But yeah, there's got to be something to it if they made like 6 more.
Yeah, there definitely must be. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really give Resident Evil a chance either, so maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know. Fill us in, Twitter listeners, YouTube comments. Just fill it in. We want to know what's going on.
Help us.
All right, well, everybody, thank you very much for listening in to our discussion on Underworld today. Oh, yeah, this is the last movie's coming up. The last movie on the wheel is The Cube, so we're going to do that next week. But if you want to listen to our episode on The Funhouse, that came out last week, and we also did Scream 6, so you can check those out. And Matt, thank you so much for coming back, and we'll definitely see you again in the future, I'm sure.
Always a pleasure, sir. Happy to talk to you. Can't wait to be on again.
All right, man. Thanks again, and we will see you all next week with The Cube.